So guys, this is my weekly report for November 9th. And first I'm going to tell you what I did this last week. I was in Texas. So I was back there visiting a couple of good friends of mine, Ralph and Cheryl Gallion. They moved back there 22 years ago, but he's a big time deer guy. And I went back on their ranch. They had a couple ranches back there, but they got one now. It's called Shin Oaks Ranch. And I'll be posting a little video about what's going on there. And then I'm going to do a big production video because he has a deer hunting business back there. And I'm going to show you his whole place. It's a magnificent place. It's beautiful. It's got, Ralph does everything first class. There's some animals on that ranch that are just unbelievable. But those videos will be coming out here real soon. I think next week I'll put the short video up just to give a little idea. And then after we get done putting together the regular video, I'll have that up online. But that's what I did all last week because I was in Texas for a week. And I fished there though also. I caught a lot of bass, catfish, a lot of bluegill, and a lot of tilapia. A lot of tilapia that were like up to a pound and a half. And they're really good table fare too. So I'll go into that later. But as far as what I did last week, I was in Texas. So, but I keep in touch with everything that's going around here. Crabbing, opener was last Saturday, and it was real good. Some guys said that it took them a little bit longer than normal, but friends of mine that are up there for the whole week, they actually did really well. Fishing in 60 to 100 feet out of Bodega Bay. You can only use nets. There's no cages allowed right now. With the nets, you don't need the crab validation stamp. They have to be pulled every 2 hours. And they caught some nice crabs. They were pretty good in size. They were like over 6 inches. So, they're decent crab right now. But the crabbing's been actually really good. I'll probably be heading there this weekend, up there crabbing, so I'll maybe do a little report on that after. Some of the other things I did right before I left last week, I went out striper fishing because the water temperature dropped down to about 57 degrees and I was throwing topwater. I had some big fish roll on my bait, but I didn't have any hookups. I only caught one about maybe 7 pounds. But I had a couple that, I saw the back of their backs come out of the water, and they're probably teeners, but they just didn't want to commit yet. But they will. When that water temperature starts dropping like this, they're going to come on big time. One of the key things I'm going to do a video on here pretty soon is learning how I look at tides and how I start my day and whatnot. But there's tides every day that happen twice. So you're going to have a high and low twice every day. And when you're a fish and that happens every day of your life, you learn and which, when that bigger high tide's coming. And it's probably easier to get your food, the fish to catch their food because they could get back further in these shallow areas. So they know. So when I look at these tides and I see I have the small one in the morning, I know it's going to be a little bit slower than if I had the higher tide in the morning. So whatever, it could be in the afternoon or it's in the morning, one or the other. And then I think those are the best times to get out there. So anyway, the striper season will be starting here real soon. I anticipate it to bust wide open here real quick. I've been getting a lot of reports from friends of mine that are out there that had phenomenal days already, and there's trollers that are catching. The thing is, you'll go out one day and slaughter them. Next day you go out and have a little difficulty finding them because they're on the move. And once they start moving into these areas like I am in Sherman, Big Break, Liberty Island, those kind of areas, once they start trapping them back in the backs, then you could usually catch them for 3 or 4 days and they'll move and they'll come back. So, they start staying in there longer when the weather cools and we start getting some rain. Also, that last week before I left to Texas, the bass fishing was crazy. Off the hook, We got into an awesome blade bite, you know, when the tide was right. You know, we were catching 3 to 5 pound fish in this one grass bed. I mean, we had double hookups quite a few times. And then I went down and started flipping my normal stuff, and I found a lot of decent sized bass, you know, in the current. So it's happening right now, and I anticipate I'm going to be going out in the next week or so, and I think it's going to be a really good bite. Other than that, things going on. Bluefin tuna, still talking to the guys, and they're still catching them. Half Moon Bay, you don't have to travel so far. Bodega Bay, they've been going out 25 miles and out. And also Fort Bragg, they're catching them really close. 2 weeks ago, they were catching them 2 miles out. Now I heard they have to go a little further, maybe 10, 15, 20 miles, but they're also still getting a lot of hookups. The bite has been really good for bluefin. If you want to hook one, you need to get out there. A lot of the guys are throwing 200s and the 240s. The guys I know have been doing better on the 240. Maybe it goes down a little bit deeper. They're throwing anywhere from 12 to 14 knots. They're seeing a lot of activity out there, out of Bodega. They're seeing a lot of birds, a lot of whales, and they just troll around them. And you know, when you're trolling, you got 100 yards to 200 yards of line out, and you see bait like that working, and when you make that big circle, you need to make a big circle because you got so much line going out. And when you do, sometimes you slow down. And this one guy told me that when he was making those loops and slowed down to 12 miles an hour, he started getting whacked. So, and I said, you know what, when you did that, your lure went deeper. Because if you're trolling straight at 14 to 17 knots, trolling at 240, it's probably only going down 5 or 6 feet. Then when you slow down, it's probably going to drop down to that 10 to 12 feet. So, you know, pay attention. If you're going around that bait and you're going speeding and you're not catching it, slow down a little bit and see what happens. So, albacore, I haven't heard too much. I think a lot of the interest is turning to the bluefin, because for a while there, the albacore were what we call peanuts. They're a little bit smaller. So they would rather, you know, catch 1 or 2 bluefin than 50 of those little peanuts. So other than that, halibut action's still good. I heard they're catching them in Tomales Bay. San Francisco Bay still got them. You might want to check the bait receiver still if they still have bait. But I think everybody's getting kind of tired of halibut. So, you know, there's just a few guys that are doing it. For a while there was a lot of stripers in San Francisco Bay, and these fish were in that 10 to 12 pound, 8 to 12 pound class fish, and they were catching a lot of them. So, and a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, friends of mine were catching them out on the beach, out of Pacifica and out of San Francisco Bay, outside the gate. So those fish are starting to move inside, and if you follow them, they're going to keep coming in until they get in the delta, which there's quite a few of them in that area right now, from Martinez to Rio Vista. And, you know, they'll come in and start hanging around there for the whole winter time. And that's when I seem to do really good, when those fish make that initial move. And once they get down here, they stay. And they'll stay here until the water warms up, till it gets to be spawning time. So, you know, the shallow flats, I anticipate real soon here that they're going to be moving into Sherman, Big Break. They'll go on all these flats outside of Rio Vista, and then they make their way into Snodgrass and Liberty. And that's when I really like to go after them. You know, rainy, foggy, cold, where, you know, it's miserable weather. Water temperature in that 52 to 55 degrees, and it's just wide open. So that's coming, it's right around the corner. So sturgeon, they're still catching a ton of sturgeon from, you know, Martinez to Pittsburgh, all that area. I'm sure they're catching some around power lines in Rio Vista. Roe has been really good. Eel, shrimp, and whatever you can find, you know, the sturgeon bite's been really good. So basically, you know, there's some new laws coming out. And I think what they did is they're not going to impose it until January 1. So people that purchase sturgeon cards this year could still utilize them. So, you know, like you're allowed 3. And starting in January, they're going to be allowing you only one. So they're going to change things. They're going to change the length of the fish, the slot limit. And last week, when I mentioned it, I read it wrong, because when they send me these informations to my computer system at the warehouse, it's real small. So I took a picture of it, and then when I read it, I just did it real fast. But anyway, in 2024, you're going to be allowed one sturgeon on the report card, and it has to be between 42 and 48 inches. And anytime I tell you guys anything about any regulations, you need to look it up yourself. And I'm doing the best I can, but sometimes I do make mistakes, and I don't want you to get in any trouble. So always check your regs. Most of the time I'm dead on, but hey, once in a while I mess up. So, but the sturgeon thing, just remember in 2024 the rules are going to change. So keep an eye with that. So anyway, other fishing around here, the trout fishing is still good. If you watch, one of the guys to follow is Big Nate. He fishes Comanche a lot, and he fishes Berryessa. And when I was at Berryessa 3 or 4 weeks ago, the lake was just starting to turn over. And I think with the cooling and the little rain that we got, when I was in Texas, I guess it rained one day here. So, when we start getting this continuous storm dropping in a little bit and cooling temperatures, the lake's going to turn over. So those fish are going to rise to the surface. What happens is your bait fish will come to the surface, and the fish will just follow them. And I anticipate it should be there's probably a good trout bite. Like I know Nate was catching them in 30 to 40 feet. Now he might be in that 15 to 25 feet. And then pretty soon you're going to throw on the surface. And that's when I like to do it, because it's a lot of fun. I'll just take like a little Rapala or a shad wrap, put out about 100 feet of line behind the boat, and go like 2.5 miles an hour. And them things are crazy. They just smash that thing. I did a lot of videos. I did one at Comanche doing that last year. You could always go look back on any of these subjects I'm telling you right now. Crabs, stripers, bass, trout, crappie, it doesn't matter. I've done a lot of videos, and you can always go back on YouTube and bring any of them up at any time and watch them. Because when the lake turns over at Berryessa and you want to go try some landlocked king fishing, it's crazy. It's unbelievable the way I've done it, and I've had some phenomenal years taking reps like Roy Gray out there and showing him, and he's just shaking his head like he would never believe that you could have this kind of action on that landlocked king. Anywhere from that year we were doing it, we were catching them anywhere from 5 feet down to 30 feet, and it was just, you would catch limits in 10 minutes. It's that fast when you find those fish. And I did a video, and it's something that I've been doing a long time out in the ocean and everything else, but we brought it to lakes, we brought it to rivers, and that mooching works. I did it at Pyramid last year. It's a deadly way to catch any kind of subspecies of salmon. So anything other than that, I think the crappie fishing, it started to bust open before I left. We had 100 fish a day down the Delta, and they're pretty decent sized fish. I think Denise is doing a video now, and it'll be released here pretty quick, because basically what I did was I showed you how I did it, because we had such a big rainfall that all the trees that we were fishing prior years, they're gone. The floods took them away. They took them away, or they moved them. So I went out, because something kept telling me when the water temperature was 58 degrees in the morning, something just told me, hey, look, go after your stripers, which I did. Missed a few, like I told you. And then I said, you know what, let's go graft. So what I did was I used my side scanning, and I scanned, and I also found a 50-foot tree. Actually 50-foot tree that moved in the area. And it was in 20 feet of water. Perfect. So I used the side scanning, locate it, turned the boat around, put the trolling motor down, started using my 2D and my live target. I found the tree. I could see where the roots were standing up and the tree laying down, and then the the tree on the top laying there, and I could see the fish in between them. So I pulled the boat up, positioned the boat, put it on spot lock, and Denise and Warren were in the back, and every cast for over an hour. They were putting fish in the boat, and I was up in the front, and I wasn't doing that well because I was fishing the stump part of it, and all the fish were in the other part. I could see massive schools on the end, and then I'd see a few swimming here and there where I was, but they were catching probably 5 to my 1. But that just shows you putting that boat in the right position. And then after I backed up, turned the boat around and put me there, and it was like one after another for me. And they weren't catching anything because I had them out in Timbuktu. But it just shows you, you know, how I use my electronics is what I did that video for, to show you how I use it and use it to benefit me to catch them. Because see, the crappie were suspended. So we were in 20 feet of water, but the tree laid there and the fish were in about 12 feet. So they would cast 12 feet out behind the boat, and then by the time the line sunk under the boat, they had a fish on every cast. It was just crazy. So, you know, that video will be out here. I think it's going to be coming out here on Monday. So watch out for that video because it has a lot of information on there. Also, I would tell you guys I'm going to be starting a consultant business here starting the first of the year. But I'm going to be getting my calendar out here in around December, and I'm going to start booking trips. And basically what I want to do with this consulting business is take people out and teach them how to use their electronics properly. So basically, just from being in this business, I'd say 90% of you fishermen out there are just run your electronics on automatic. That's not a way to do it. There's ways that you could see 10 times more by doing the right settings. But first you need to make sure that the transducer is set up right on the boat. And those are some of the things that I've been doing all my life and that I could help you and fix it and make sure. And then to get you to understand what all the buttons are on there for you and which ones are the most important and how to get it dialed in to where you could actually see the fish. But a lot of times, just because you can see them doesn't mean you can catch them. But if you put your bait in front of them, and there'll be days where you just slaughter them, and there'll be days when you can't catch any. It just makes it tough. So anyway, you can contact me at alanfongoutdoors@gmail.com, or you could call 669-250-3664 and leave me a message, and I'll get back to you. And then, you know, if you want to set up a date ahead of time so you can get on there, because I'm not going to be doing this as a full-time thing. I'm going to be doing it maybe 1 or 2 times a week, you know, or, you know, whenever I have time, or what I would figure out what's going to work best for you. So if you told me, hey, just want to go out and learn how to set up my electronics, make sure it's done on my boat correctly, then I could just take you down here in the river. I could do that anytime. If you wanted to go out and you said, hey, Alan, I want to go after some landlocked kings, and I want to know how I could set my electronics up for it. I want to know how you rig your gitsit, how you set it up, how you put the hook in it, what line you use, what rod you use, and everything. I do that on my video, but sometimes, you know, people just don't understand unless you actually physically see it. And those are some of the things I'm going to be doing on consulting. So like if you had an issue on, hey, how do I flip, and am I putting my pegs, am I pegging it right, am I using the right hook, how am I doing it right? That's what I'm doing in my consulting. I'm not going to take you out there and slaughter no fish. I'm going to take you out there and show you how to make sure you have everything set up properly to catch fish. And I'll be doing and specializing in stuff, even on like a spinnerbait for bass, or the lures that I trove for trout, how I mooch for salmon, how I catch bluegill, how I catch crappie, and how I use my electronics. That's the kind of thing I'm going to do in consulting. I don't want to do anything like fish guys where they take you and then just take you and slaughter the fish and say, okay, you're done. I'm going to show you how to do it. So anyway, you can get a hold of me at my email address or my phone number, and then I'll get back with you, and then maybe we can jot it down in the books, and then that time when I start doing it, you know, you'll be first in line. Anyway, on every Saturday now, on your way out fishing, If you're out there on the road around 6:30, 6:40 in the morning, tune in on 11:40 on the AM dial on California Sportsman. I'm on there every week. This last week, if you're watching, I was in Texas, and I called in and was telling everybody what I was doing up there and what some of the fishing that was going on. But I'm on there every Saturday at 6:40 a.m. approximately. So tune on the dial, and you know, if you guys like my videos, hit that like button, and please subscribe. You know, because it'll really help me get along there. And if you want to leave me a comment, just hit that little button on the bottom, leave me a comment, and I'll get back with you in a couple days. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.